You guys know when you see my face, I probably went to another conference. I went to Seller Velocity today, ran by Chris McCabe of E-Commerce Chris. I had to make this critique. This conference, I actually went into it with somewhat a fresh look. I've never been to it before, so it was one of those rare occurrences where I didn't know what to expect. That the biggest thing that struck me with this conference was that it was geared towards primarily Amazon sellers. And the reason why I say that is for the first time, a conference of that nature featured email and SMS marketing, which of course Amazon sellers rarely exercise, and more of an element of branding to make sure your brand sticks out over others. Again, a muscle that Amazon sellers, let's just say, don't have the strongest one of. As a general reaction to the conference, I was very impressed by the speakers. By far experts in their field. Sure, most ran agencies, but they knew what they were talking about. Many had good presentation skills, were engaging with the audience. Were they all household names in the Amazon industry? 50-50, but they could be. So without further ado, I'm going to go into the talks, lecture by lecture. Let's see what they react to. Guys, don't mean to offend you. Let's do this. Phil Rivers, this guy was awesome. He knew email marketing almost as good as Tony Urbach, a good friend, teacher, and mentor of mine. She breathes email, him a little less. Oh my God, would I love to see both of those in a room. But he pointed out so many nuances of email funnels and marketing that people should pay attention to. The best quote he said was, people usually think I need more traffic, but it's usually a conversion problem. Love that. CRO there's so much more room for CRO to improve rather than driving volume and traffic to your site. Anybody there can tell you I grilled him on funnels, different nuances of DKIM and SPF, abandoned cart sequences, and he had a specific answer for everything I threw at him. Anything and everything. Anybody who knows me knows I'm an active participant in really any conversation, business especially. And then I had the pleasure of meeting Emma Tamir. She was definitely a bubbly personality, a copywriter, and clearly familiar with the art of branding. Everybody who knows branding knows the job Liquid Death has caused. They're selling water in a can. Their marketing is truly one of a kind. You sell your soul. When you want to sign up for an email list, you sell your soul. She did a great job in outlining brands need to differentiate, and if a brand needs to sell water, there are steps she recommended you follow. I won't give it all away for free. Joe Corax. He runs an agency where it's pitched as protecting your brand because most of us are transitioning to omnichannel. Omnichannel opens brands up to unauthorized resellers and people potentially knocking off your brand as counterfeit goods enter the market. So what he does is not only he captures it at the port, but also engages in a cease and desist letter, a drafting of authorized resale policies, and other mitigating measures to protect the authenticity of your brand. Something I'm skeptical about in the industry as a whole is what's happening to the first sale doctrine. For those of you who don't know, the first sale doctrine means if I go and buy something in the store, I'm allowed to resell it as long as it's the same item. So I go and buy a Hershey's bar, I'm able to sell a Hershey's bar as a Hershey's bar, as long as I don't modify it. But throughout the years, different courts ruled that different things constitute a change. Brands try to get creative in saying they don't offer a warranty for items that don't originate from an authorized reseller. That's not such a tried and tested method. But in the end of the day, most of it comes down to the economics. Is the brand going to try and take the unauthorized seller to court with those litigation fees, or are they just gonna try to use the scare tactics that a lot of us sellers are familiar with? Then we had Anthony Confrancesco. So I know Brandon Young from Seller Summit last year, and I'll probably see him again in another couple of weeks there. Anthony hit some great strategies to use DataDive with. As a seller, I've always been on the fence with DataDive, but I've never actually taken the plunge. But using his lecture, I took my conversion rate, I took the category standard conversion rate, and that was the same. A question I posed to him, if I'm hitting the conversion rate of the industry standard, will DataDive enable me to increase that conversion rate? Don't know, but the different methodology he lectured about was amazing. The way you can use Data Dive, the way you can use it for continuous split testing, continuous optimization. As I'm in the industry more and more, I'm learning that there's no way that a listing could be fully optimized. There's always split tests. There's always improvements that can happen. And what I took away from his talk, there should always be a split test running. And then we had the famous Bradley Sutton from Helium 10. An innovative idea that I thought of, the flagship idea he had in his lecture was setting up a dummy listing. Truly a unique idea. He thought of setting up a dummy listing, seeing how it indexes organically on Amazon. That validates Amazon will understand your listing in the correct way, and then he would actually list a new listing with inventory attached to it. To clarify, he used the example of coffee socks. There were socks with coffee on them, for simplicity's sake. Will Amazon recognize that as coffee, or socks, or coffee socks? The answer was just socks, and coffee ranked nowhere in there. In that case, he would have listed that dummy product at $99. A $99 pair of socks won't sell. He would run Helium 10 on it, see that Amazon will not understand it as a sock, and could plan whether to go forth with the launch or not. A novel idea. I like it. The only reason why I'm disclosing that idea is because he just did on a podcast a couple days ago. Guys, when I say e-commerce Chris brought the best, he did. The format and the way he did it, everybody had a 10-minute pitch and then they got to go in depth into their talks. The level of proficiency of each of the speakers were well above standard, and their presentation, rhetoric, voice was just engaging in general. It was sort of refreshing to see a conference where all of those were taken into consideration. In the end of the day, it's a long one, and to keep the audience engaged and sellers like me something to walk away with makes it that much easier to sit through. Thank you, e-commerce Chris. Can't wait for day 2.